Radio live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. Here's Jake Asman.
The NBA playoffs start on Saturday. We've had the play-in game in the Eastern Conference go final. Wizards are your 8th seed. Tonight we'll find out who the 8th seed is in the Western Conference as we have Steph Curry and the Warriors against John Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies. For more on that game tonight, how you should bet it, and of course the NBA playoffs as a whole, we go out to our progressive guest line right now. We bring on the host of Sports Gambling Daily on YouTube, also the host of a nightly show on the Score Trade app, which I'm a part of, and I work with this guy every single night. He is Jared Holley, and he joins us right now here on the Jake Asman Show. Jared, appreciate the time this morning, my man. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jake.
So let's start with tonight's game. I want to get your expert opinion here. You handicap games for a living. Break down Grizzlies and Warriors. Break down the matchup. Where would you go if you're betting this one?
Yeah, for sure. So the Golden State Warriors, they've already played the Grizzlies 3 times this season. The Warriors have won 2 out of those 3 games. And if you really look at it, because if you have the over-under set at 221, 220 and a half in some books, I think the play is under. The under they have not gone over that total these 3 previous times. And look, the Grizzlies are a good rebounding team, but they do not shoot a lot of 3-pointers, and then more importantly, they don't even make a lot of 3-pointers. They're one of those teams that like to slash and get those points in the paint. So when the Grizzlies do score, they typically score just 2 points. And then for the flip side, you have the Golden State Warriors. Well, we all know about Steph Curry and his 3-point, dominance. But overall, you're going to see the fact that it's a playoff game or a play-in game, the defense is going to be ramped up. And, they don't call as many fouls. So I'm thinking under is the best play in this matchup.
Under, I love it. All right, so as far as, the rest of the playoffs here, now that we know, the Eastern Conference, we'll know the Western Conference by tonight. Let's start kind of just looking at the first-round matchups. Is there a series, Jared, that you are the most excited to watch, the most excited to bet on?
Well, to be honest with you, yes, there is one team or one team I'm actually focused on so much, and it's probably one that a lot of people are not even paying attention to. It's the New York Knicks versus the Atlanta Hawks.
What do you mean a lot of people aren't paying attention to it? I know plenty of people.
Yeah, the only person I know is you, Jake. I know you're a big Knicks fan, and look, I'm really excited about how they've been playing this year. I'm a big Knicks fan this year. I mean, obviously, I'm a Houston Rockets fan by trade. However, I have nothing to talk about there. But this New York Knicks team, this team loves to play defense, and I love the way they are coached. They're the number 1 defense in the league. They're the number 1 3-point defense in the league, and also they love to knock down 3-pointers. They're almost averaging about 40% from 3-point range. So this team is one of those dark horse teams that I feel like can make some waves so they can get past this Atlanta Hawks team.
Do you think the fact that the Knicks are playing, at MSG, there's 15,000 fans that are going to be in attendance in games 1 and 2. Do you think maybe the Knicks are getting undervalued here? Like, I really think the home court advantage that the Knicks have at the Garden might be the best home court advantage you'll get in the NBA playoffs this year.
Oh, absolutely. And, if you look at the series price, the New York Knicks are actually underdogs for this series. I was kind of surprised because when I look at Atlanta's side, they have some injuries that are, they've been dealing with injuries all season long. Look, right now, if you look at the injury report, you got Capella. He's questionable with Achilles injury, Herter, an ankle injury. They have no Cam Reddish. I mean, I think this is a spot that the New York Knicks, under the radar, I think this is a good play. And I think the New York Knicks are going to take that series.
Jared Holley with us here, Sports Gambling Daily. You can check it out on YouTube. Also the host of the nightly show on the Score Trade app. Download that today. By the way, use my promo code AsmanJake when you download the Score Trade app, so I could get more tokens than Jared here and win all the cool prizes on Score Trade every night. Now, as far as some of the other matchups here in the first round, what's your take on some of the top 3 seeds here? Like, is there obviously the Lakers are not your typical 7th seed here, but which team besides obviously Phoenix, because we know the Lakers are great, which team could potentially be challenged here in the first round?
Well, I mean, I honestly think the biggest upset potential here is the Suns. And the Suns are one of my favorite teams in the West. But the Lakers, I mean, it's hard to fade LeBron, right? Every time he seems to make the playoffs, he seems to go all the way to the championship every single time. So the Suns are on upset alert. Another upset alert potentially would be the Nuggets. They're without their starting point guard. They're without their starting shooting guard. They're without their backup point guard. So that could be a potential issue there versus the Blazers. Blazers are actually favored in that series. If you were to take the Blazers, they are minus 130 on the money line. So the Nuggets are the underdog here going into this series with the Blazers. So the Blazers might be able to do something. A little game time coming up.
How about the 3-6 matchup in the Eastern Conference? You have Milwaukee, a team that everyone seems to like. They made new additions. Mm-hmm. It's not the same roster we've seen, come up short in the playoffs the last few years. But this is a Heat team that obviously goes to the finals a year ago, and they did beat the Bucks in the bubble last season. Do you give Miami a chance at a 6-3 matchup there to pull off an upset?
Yeah, I'm leaning the Bucks in that matchup for sure. The Bucks definitely did things a little different this time around. The last few seasons, it seemed like they were just trying to win every single game during the regular season. And then when they got to the playoffs, they kind of fell flat, So, and then the Miami Heat, this is not the same Miami Heat team that we saw last year, Jake. That team, they really bonded. They really played well. They didn't have a lot of injuries on that squad this time around between the virus wrecking that team and then also, just having, like they made that big trade for Victor Oladipo. Now he's not playing for them. I think this is just one of those teams where the Heat, it's just going to be too much. I think the Bucks are going to take care of them.
You look at, the Eastern Conference here with Brooklyn being, a team that has all this talent, but we've barely seen it. Is it crazy to fade the Nets here? How are you, taking the betting approach with Brooklyn?
Well, I'm not going to be, I can't take Boston here. Boston's been one of the most inconsistent teams ever. That I've seen, as far as the Brooklyn Nets, I mean, we haven't really seen what they're really capable of. We all know KD is all world and so is James Harden and Kyrie Irving. However, we don't know what it really looks like when they're all on the court together, do we? I mean, I think they've only played 8 games this season, all 3 of them together. I do think they'll be able to take care of Boston, but going forward, passing the Bucks is going to be an issue, and then even potentially getting into the finals matchup, and either they're going to take on Philly or potentially the Knicks or the Hawks. I just don't know. I think that this might be a little too much for the Nets. And what's crazy is the Nets are actually the odds-on favorite to win the championship this year. It's a 2-1 shot for the Nets. And I'm not buying it. I'm staying off the Nets. I have to see more before I can put any money on the Brooklyn Nets.
I totally agree. I'm fading the Nets because the lack of chemistry that those guys are going to have when they face some adversity with a rookie head coach is for one reason for sure why I'm out on them. And then just the fact that if they're going to win a championship, they're going to have to face Milwaukee in the second round most likely. And I think even if they get by the Bucks, that might take so much out of them that the Sixers and Embiid might just dominate inside against a Nets team that really doesn't play a whole lot of defense inside.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, one of the teams we're not really even talking about is the 76ers. The 76ers, they got to take on the Wizards. The Wizards typically play Philly pretty tough, but, imagine Philly gets all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals versus the Nets. Do the Nets have an answer for Joel Embiid? I'm not quite sure they do.
I think I would probably place a future bet right now on Philly to win a title. I think there's decent odds on them considering the Nets are still considered the favorites to do it. I like the Sixers having that path as the 1 seed to at least get there. And then once you're there, I mean, anything could happen, especially if someone gets hurt or whatnot. I think the Sixers have a legitimate chance to win. Am I crazy?
You're not crazy. Right now, if you were to get in on the 76ers, it'll pay you 8-1, Jake. And I also think if you look at the Phoenix Suns, they're 18-1. I think there's immense value there. I know the Phoenix Suns haven't been in the playoffs since 2010, but I think this might be the play. If they can get past the Lakers, I think there's awesome value for the Suns as well.
Jared Holley with us here. He is the host of Sports Gambling Daily on YouTube, also the host of the nightly Score Trade show. Download the Score Trade app today. Let me ask you, a big picture here. Like, how many teams realistically do you think could actually win a championship?
Actually win a championship. I think there's 3 teams in the West. There's the Utah Jazz, especially if Donovan Mitchell can come back from injury. The Phoenix Suns, if they can get past the Lakers. And, of course, no one's talking about the Clippers team. Clippers can actually do some damage here. They play Dallas in the first round. And then on the East Coast, I think Philly, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and I know you're going to like to hear me say this, but I think if the Knicks can get past the Hawks, they can make life really tough on Philly, and you never know what's going to happen. So I think the Knicks barely squeezed in there. But, in all, I guess I should say probably 6 teams, but I like the Knicks as a dark horse.
I can't believe you have the Knicks as a dark horse. I mean, I'm the biggest Knicks fan there is here, and I think if they win around, I mean, they're probably losing in 5 to Philly, but I'll take that, man. I mean, if they make it interesting with the Sixers in a second round matchup, I think as a Knicks fan, I mean, I'll be streaking around the city of Houston. I'll be so excited.
Yeah, 100-1 is the odds for the Knicks to win the championship. So let's go ahead and get rich.
I mean, is like Clyde Frazier coming out of retirement to help him? I mean, my God, I love the confidence there, Jared. I do. Finally, here, I know you're also a big baseball handicapper. Any plays for today that you want to share with the audience?
Well, let's see here. Didn't really have anything looked at yet, but let me go and pull up something if I can find it.
That's okay. You're saving people a lot of money. You're just gonna, you throw something out there. Maybe it's best you don't say anything then.
Yeah. Let's see here. Let's talk about today real quick. Let's see here. Trying to find a matchup real quick off the cuff. Astros Rangers. Here we go. I love my Astros. You got Kyle Gibson. Kyle Gibson has been money this year. Now this is a guy that I have faded so much over the course of his career, and now all of a sudden he's turning into like a Cy Young candidate. And you have the Astros here pitching out Tyler Ivey. He's a rookie. This is his debut. He's their number 9 prospect in this organization. But you got to give me Kyle Gibson here and the Rangers. And I think you're going to get a pretty good price there on the Rangers, considering they're taking on the Astros. Kyle Gibson's been money this year.
Rangers due to score some runs as well. They haven't scored in 18 innings since the Yankees have shut them out the last 2 nights.
Yeah. And and Tyler Ivey, he appeared in 2 games for the Sugarland Skeeters. He gave up a ton of runs. He has a 7 ERA over 6 and 1/3 innings. Somehow that got him promoted to the majors. So I think the play here is the Rangers, and that pains me because I love Astros.
There you go. Jared, appreciate you hopping on, man. I will talk to you later on the Score Trade app, and I will continue to watch your daily videos on YouTube, Sports Gambling Daily.
All right. Thanks, Jake.
Jared Holley with us there on our Progressive guest line. Drivers who save with Progressive save over $750 on average. Interesting stuff from Jared. From his lips to God's ears on the Knicks actually being a dark horse contender. I'll take a first-round series win, and anything else from there is house money. Honestly, this season has already been house money. More on the Knicks later. Mark Berman from the New York Post will join us. We'll talk Knicks and Nets with him in hour 2. We wrap up hour 1, though, coming up next here on Sports Map Radio.
Hey, sports fans. Jake Asman of